My best friend stole from me for years, until I drained our joint account and disappeared, and the beautiful irony is that she handed me the perfect weapon herself when she suggested we pool our resources together for our shared dreams. The discovery hit me like ice water in my veins on a Tuesday morning that started like any other. I was scrolling through our joint savings account, the one Maya and I had opened 18 months ago, when we decided to chase our dream of opening that little boutique we'd talked about since college. The morning light streaming through my apartment window felt warm on my face, and I remember thinking how perfect everything was about to become. We were so close to having enough for the down payment. Then I saw it. A withdrawal. $800. Last Friday. The memo line read, "Personal emergency," in Maya's careful handwriting that I knew as well as my own. My heart didn't race immediately. The rational part of my brain kicked in first, the part that had been trained by years of friendship to give Maya every benefit of the doubt. She must have forgotten to tell me. Maybe her car broke down, or her mom needed help with medical bills again. Maya had always been there for everyone else, sometimes to her own detriment. I scrolled up intending to text her about it when I noticed another withdrawal. $600, 2 weeks ago. Same memo line. The warmth from the window suddenly felt scorching against my skin. My fingers moved with mechanical precision, scrolling further back through our account history. The numbers began to blur together, but the pattern was crystal clear. Withdrawal after withdrawal, all marked personal emergency, all in Maya's distinctive handwriting, stretching back months. 300 here, 500 there. Sometimes smaller amounts, $50, $75, as if she thought those would go unnoticed. The coffee mug slipped from my trembling hand, shattering against the hardwood floor with a sound that seemed to echo through my entire world. Hot coffee splashed across my bare feet, but I barely felt the burn. My entire body had gone numb, as if my nervous system had simply shut down to protect itself from processing this reality. I kept scrolling, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The theft stretched back almost to the day we'd opened the account. While I had been diligently depositing my carefully saved money I'd earned through overtime shifts at the marketing firm, money I'd saved by eating ramen for weeks, money I'd scraped together by selling furniture and jewelry, Maya had been systematically stealing it. The total sat there at the bottom of my phone screen like a punch to the gut. $11,847. $11,847. Nearly half of what we'd saved, nearly half of my dreams, siphoned away by the person I trusted most in the world. I doubled over on my kitchen floor, surrounded by coffee and broken ceramic, and for the first time since my father's funeral 3 years ago, I wept with the kind of raw, animalistic grief that comes from having your fundamental understanding of the world torn apart. Maya wasn't just my best friend. She was my chosen family. We'd been inseparable since our sophomore year of college, when we'd bonded over late-night philosophy discussions and shared dreams of entrepreneurship. She was the maid of honor at my wedding, the first person I called when David and I divorced, the one who held me together when I thought I'd never stop falling apart. She was the one who suggested the joint account in the first place. The memory hit me like a physical blow. We'd been sitting in our favorite coffee shop, the one with the mismatched chairs and terrible Wi-Fi, mapping out our business plan on napkins. Maya had looked up from her sketches of our dream boutique layout, her eyes bright with what I'd thought was shared excitement. "We should open a joint savings account," she'd said, tucking a strand of her auburn hair behind her ear in that gesture I'd always found endearing. "It'll keep us accountable to each other, and we can watch our dreams grow together in real time." I'd thought it was beautiful. Romantic even, in the way that deep friendships can be. Two women supporting each other, building something meaningful together, refusing to let the world tell them they couldn't make it on their own. But she'd already been planning to rob me. The realization sent another wave of nausea through my system. Every deposit I'd made while she watched, every time she'd praised me for my discipline and sacrifice, every moment she'd acted excited about our progress, she'd known she was stealing from me. She'd watched me deny myself basic pleasures, watched me work extra shifts until I was exhausted, watched me stress about whether we'd ever save enough, and she'd stolen it anyway. My phone buzzed with a text from her. "Coffee later? I found the perfect location for the shop and I'm dying to show you." The casual tone, the exclamation point, the complete normalcy of it made me want to scream. She was going to sit across from me with her stolen money in her bank account and pretend to be my partner, my friend, my family. But I didn't scream. Instead, something cold and crystalline settled in my chest, pushing out the heat of grief and rage. I sat on my kitchen floor for what felt like hours, feeling this new sensation spread through my body like frost forming on glass. Planning. Strategy. The methodical consideration of options. By the time I finally stood up and began sweeping the broken mug into the dustpan, I knew exactly what I was going to do. The next few days passed in a strange, suspended animation. I went to work, smiled at my colleagues, answered Maya's texts with appropriate enthusiasm about coffee dates and boutique locations. But underneath my normal exterior, I was gathering information with the focused intensity of a detective. I started with our joint account, screenshotting every single fraudulent withdrawal. The timestamps, the amounts, the memo lines that were nothing but lies written in Maya's handwriting. I organized them chronologically in a folder on my laptop, watching the pattern of theft emerge with clinical detachment. She'd been smart about it, I had to admit, never taking amounts large enough to trigger automatic alerts. Never taking so much in 1 month that I'd notice when I did my casual balance checks. She'd studied my habits, learned my patterns, and exploited them with surgical precision. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd assumed I'd never look closely enough to catch her. During my lunch breaks, I began researching Maya's social media with the same methodical approach. Her Instagram told a story that made my blood run cold. Designer handbags I'd never seen her carry in person. Weekend trips to wine country that she'd mentioned but claimed were gifts from her new boyfriend, Derek. Expensive dinners at restaurants I knew her salary couldn't afford. All of it paid for with my money. My overtime hours, my sacrificed meals and postponed pleasures. The boyfriend was particularly interesting. Derek had appeared in Maya's life about 6 months ago, right around the time her withdrawals had increased in frequency. She'd introduced us at a group dinner, and I'd liked him immediately. He was charming, funny, successful in tech, the kind of man Maya deserved. Now I wondered if she was trying to impress him with a lifestyle she couldn't afford. If my stolen money was funding her attempts to appear more successful than she was. The thought made that cold crystal in my chest grow larger, more solid. I began paying closer attention to Maya's stories about her life. How she'd mentioned struggling to make rent last month, then posted photos of an expensive spa day. How she'd complained about being broke, then showed up wearing a new designer watch. The contradictions had always been there, but I'd explained them away with the generosity that friendship demands. No more. 3 weeks after my discovery, I finally had enough information to understand the full scope of Maya's betrayal. But more importantly, I had a plan. The beauty of it was in its simplicity. Maya had access to our joint account, but so did I. And unlike Maya, I was the primary account holder, a detail we'd established when opening it since my credit score was higher. She could make withdrawals, but only I could close the account or make major changes to its structure. She'd taught me something valuable about the power of gradual, unnoticed movements. If small, consistent thefts could drain an account over time, then small, consistent preparations could set up the perfect revenge. I started by changing my direct deposit at work. Instead of splitting my paycheck between my personal checking and our joint savings, I quietly redirected everything to a new account I opened at a different bank. Maya wouldn't notice immediately. She never paid attention to the deposit patterns, only the growing balance. Next, I began transferring my legitimate half of our remaining joint savings into my new account. Not all at once, which might trigger her attention, but in increments that matched my usual deposit patterns. To anyone checking casually, it would look like I was simply continuing to save at my normal rate. The stolen money, my money, stayed in the joint account. I had screenshots proving every fraudulent withdrawal, with dates and amounts. That money would serve as evidence, but more importantly, it would serve as bait. Meanwhile, I started planning my exit strategy with the same careful attention to detail that I'd once devoted to our business plan. I gave my landlord notice, telling him I was moving for a job opportunity. I researched apartments in Portland, a city I'd always wanted to try but had never had the courage to move to alone. I began selling furniture and personal items, telling friends I was simplifying my life. Maya noticed none of it. She was too busy spending my money and planning our fake future together. The hardest part wasn't the logistics. It was maintaining the facade of friendship. Sitting across from her at our regular coffee dates, listening to her excitedly describe renovations for a boutique we'd never open, watching her pay for drinks with money she'd stolen from me, the casual way she'd ask about our savings progress, as if she didn't know exactly how much she'd taken. But I endured it because each conversation gave me more information, more evidence, more ammunition for what was coming. 6 weeks after my discovery, I was ready. I'd transferred the last of my legitimate savings out of our joint account, leaving only the stolen money, exactly $11,847. I'd packed my essential belongings into storage. I'd secured an apartment in Portland and given my boss at the marketing firm notice, spinning a story about a family emergency that required relocation. Maya still had no idea what was coming. The night before I executed my plan, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling strangely calm. The grief and rage from that first day had transformed into something else. Not quite peace, but a cold satisfaction at the elegance of what I was about to do. She'd stolen my money gradually, thinking I'd never notice. I was about to take it back all at once, ensuring she'd never forget. Friday morning arrived gray and overcast, the kind of weather that matched my mood perfectly. I woke up early, made myself a cup of coffee in the mug I'd bought to replace the one I'd broken 6 weeks ago, and sat down at my laptop. The joint account showed a balance of $11,847. Maya's stolen money, sitting there like evidence in a courtroom. I opened my banking app and initiated a transfer. All of it. Every stolen penny moved from our joint account to my new account at the different bank. The transaction would take a few hours to process, but once it went through, Maya would be left with exactly nothing, just like she'd tried to leave me. While the transfer processed, I drove to my storage unit and loaded the last of my belongings into my car. Everything I owned now fit into a Honda Civic, a surprisingly liberating feeling. I'd been tied to this city, this apartment, this life that Maya had been systematically undermining, and now I was free of all of it. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Lunch today? I have news about the shop." For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself a genuine smile as I typed back, "Sorry, can't today." Something came up. Something had indeed come up. Justice. By noon, the transfer had completed. I checked my new account balance and felt a deep, satisfying warmth spread through my chest. My money was back where it belonged. Maya's theft had been reversed, every penny accounted for. But I wasn't done yet. I opened my laptop and began composing an email that I'd been mentally drafting for weeks. Not to Maya. She'd figure out what happened soon enough when she checked the account. This email was for Derek, her boyfriend who'd been unknowingly enjoying dates and gifts paid for with my stolen money. The email was simple, professional, and devastating. "Hi Derek, you don't know me well, but I'm Maya's best friend and business partner. I thought you should know that Maya has been stealing money from our joint business account to fund her lifestyle, including what I assume are gifts and dates with you. I've attached screenshots of the fraudulent withdrawals, totaling nearly $12,000 over the past 18 months. I've recovered the money, but I thought you deserved to know who you're really dating. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news." I attached the folder of screenshots I'd been collecting, each one time-stamped and documented with meticulous care. Derek seemed like a good man, and he deserved to know that his girlfriend was a thief who'd been using stolen money to impress him. After sending the email, I forwarded the same documentation to my lawyer, not because I planned to press charges, but because I wanted everything officially documented in case Maya tried to retaliate or claim I'd stolen from her. The final step was the most personal. I wrote Maya a letter. Not an email that could be forwarded or screenshotted, but an actual handwritten letter on stationery I'd bought specifically for this purpose. Something tangible that she'd have to hold in her hands, something she couldn't delete or ignore. "Maya," I wrote, my handwriting steady and controlled. "By the time you read this, I'll be gone. I know about the money, all $11,847 that you stole from our joint account over the past 18 months. I have documentation of every fraudulent withdrawal you made while pretending to be my friend and business partner. I've taken back what you stole from me, and I've disappeared from your life the same way you've been slowly disappearing my trust and my dreams. You taught me something valuable about how much damage can be done through small, consistent actions over time. Consider this my graduation from that particular school of thought. I won't be pressing charges, but I have sent evidence of your theft to Derek because he deserves to know who he's dating. I've also documented everything with my lawyer, so don't even think about claiming I stole from you. You probably think this is cruel, but I want you to understand something. Every dollar you took was earned through my extra shifts, my sacrifices, my carefully budgeted decisions to prioritize our shared dreams over my immediate wants. You didn't just steal money. You stole my time, my energy, my trust, and my belief that I had family in you. The boutique was never going to happen, was it? Not with you stealing our funding to impress your boyfriend and maintain a lifestyle you couldn't afford. But that's okay, because I've realized I never needed a partner who would rob me blind while smiling to my face. I'm starting over somewhere new, with my money safely in an account that only I can access. I'm going to build the life I want without having to worry about whether my best friend is picking my pocket while she hugs me. Don't try to find me. Don't try to contact me. We're done, and this time it's permanent. The girl who trusted you is gone. What you have now is the woman you created through your choices. I didn't sign it. She'd know who it was from. I sealed the letter in an envelope and drove to Maya's apartment complex. She was at work. I knew her schedule as well as she'd known my banking habits, so I slipped the letter under her door and walked away. My car was packed, my new apartment waited in Portland, and my phone showed a new account balance that reflected justice finally served. As I drove out of the city where I'd been betrayed, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: genuine excitement about the future. Not the false excitement of shared dreams with someone who was betraying me, but the real anticipation of building something entirely my own. My phone stayed silent for the first 3 hours of the drive. Then, as I crossed the state line, it began buzzing with increasing desperation. Text after text from Maya, missed calls, voicemails I didn't listen to. The messages I could see on my lock screen told the story. What did you do? Followed by, this is insane. Followed by, we need to talk. Followed by increasingly frantic variations on the same theme. I didn't respond to any of them. Around hour 5, Derek texted me, holy shit. Thank you for telling me. I'm sorry this happened to you. That one I answered, I'm sorry you got caught up in it. You seem like a good person who deserved better than being unknowingly complicit in theft. His response came quickly, already ended it. What she did to you is unforgivable. I hope your fresh start goes well. And that was it. Maya's boyfriend of 6 months, the man she'd been stealing my money to impress, had dumped her within hours of learning the truth. The lifestyle she'd built on my stolen money had crumbled as quickly as she'd constructed it. The justice of it was so perfect it almost made me laugh. I drove straight through to Portland, stopping only for gas and coffee, arriving at my new apartment as the sun was setting over a city that knew nothing about my past, my betrayal, or my revenge. The apartment was small but bright, with huge windows that faced west toward mountains I'd never seen before. As I unpacked my few remaining belongings, I realized something had fundamentally shifted inside me. The cold, crystalline feeling that had replaced my initial grief wasn't gone, but it had transformed into something else. Clarity, maybe, or strength. The unshakable knowledge that I could trust my own judgment, protect my own interests, and survive even the deepest betrayals. Maya had taught me that people can smile while they rob you. But she'd also inadvertently taught me that I was capable of strategic thinking, careful planning, and flawless execution when someone threatened my survival. I'd never needed those skills before. I'd lived my life assuming that good intentions and trust were sufficient protection against harm. Maya had shown me how wrong I was, but she'd also shown me how strong I could be when those illusions were stripped away. My phone buzzed one last time as I unpacked my books. Another message from Maya, please just talk to me. I can explain everything? I blocked her number without reading the rest. There was nothing left to explain. She'd made her choices consistently over 18 months, and I'd made mine. The difference was that mine had been calculated, purposeful, and successful. 3 months later, I was settled into my new life in Portland. I'd found work at a boutique marketing firm that specialized in sustainable fashion. Ironic, considering my abandoned dreams of running my own boutique, but satisfying in its way. I was making good money, had a social life that was slowly developing, and most importantly, had complete control over my financial security. My bank account grew steadily, with no mysterious withdrawals to drain away my progress. Every dollar belonged to me, earned by me, controlled by me. I never heard from Maya again directly, but through mutual friends who didn't know the full story of our falling out, I learned fragments of information about her life after my disappearance. Derek had indeed broken up with her immediately. She'd had to move back in with her parents when she couldn't afford her rent without the stolen money subsidizing her lifestyle. She'd been forced to take a second job to make ends meet. Most satisfying of all, I heard that she'd applied for several credit cards and taken out a personal loan, apparently struggling to maintain the appearance of financial stability that my stolen money had provided. The debt she was accumulating would take years to pay off. She'd learned the hard way that actions have consequences, that theft carries a price, that betraying someone's trust doesn't happen in a vacuum. The girl who'd trusted Maya blindly was indeed gone, just as I'd written in my letter. In her place was a woman who kept her financial information private, who paid attention to red flags in relationships, who trusted but verified. Maya had intended to rob me of my dreams and financial security. Instead, she'd inadvertently given me something more valuable, the knowledge of my own strength and the certainty that I could protect myself from anyone who tried to take advantage of my kindness. I never opened another joint account with anyone. I never again assumed that shared dreams meant shared integrity, and I never forgot the lesson that the people closest to you have the most power to hurt you, but also that you have more power than you realize to protect yourself and seek justice. On quiet evenings in my Portland apartment, looking out at mountains that Maya had never seen, I sometimes thought about the boutique we'd planned together. It had been a beautiful dream, full of hope and partnership and mutual support. But building something real had turned out to be even more beautiful than dreaming about building something with someone who was betraying me. My life was smaller now, but it was entirely mine. My money was mine. My plans were mine. My future was mine. And that was worth more than anything Maya could have stolen from me, even if she'd never stopped trying. The revenge had been perfect in its completeness, not just recovering my money, but revealing her true character to the person she'd been trying to impress with her stolen lifestyle. But the real victory was simpler. I'd discovered that I didn't need her friendship, her partnership, or her approval to build a life I loved. Maya had tried to steal my dreams. Instead, she'd forced me to find better ones.